Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to 15 Minutes with Grow. My name is Kentisha Ward, and I am the COO of Grow the Food Lab. Today, we have Miss Sumayyah Cargill on here, and she's going to be telling us about her new restaurant and such an amazing concept and why she actually took a look at Grow. So, let me tell you a little bit more about 15 Minutes with Grow. This allows persons involved in the culinary, agriculture, and business realm an opportunity to chat with us about their story. This gives our viewers an opportunity to hear how Grow the Food Lab, once in operation, can provide numerous services and products to suit various businesses throughout the Bahamas and also address different factors in the value chain. So, I'd like to welcome Ms. Sumayyah Cargill, and she's here to talk about her business, Nom Nom Pita. Welcome.
Hi, Kantisha. So, thank you so much for having me. If you want, I can just jump right into our story.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, so Nom Nom Pita has been a project that my sister and I have been working on for the last 3 years or so. We grew up obviously Muslim, and the Muslim community here in the Bahamas is actually very, very diverse. So I grew up eating food from Malaysia, from Africa, across the Caribbean, from South America. And so when I went off to school, I got the opportunity to experience a really diverse food culture on top of that. So in Canada, you have the Lebanese restaurant on the corner, you've got Russian down the street, you've got India, or, right downtown. And then coming back to the Bahamas, I found that our food scene is a little less diverse. And I was really missing, that ability to try something different on a
Mhm,
consistent basis.
mhm.
So, and then on top of that, being Muslim, we have, dietary restrictions. And so sometimes you go out and people aren't as careful about what they put in your food. So you might ask them, well, did you put pork in your food? And they might tell you no, but then they would put like bacon fat in the rice because we
Yes.
don't really think of that as pork.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we're really sensitive about our dietary restrictions. And
Mm-hmm.
so for the last 3 years, we've been building Nom Nom Pita. It's a Middle Eastern and North African inspired restaurant. So we're very much fusion. We're super accessible. So we take these flavors that we've been exposed to and then we distill them down into their essence and we combine it with things that are familiar favorites, like our pomegranate chicken. Everybody's familiar with barbecue chicken, but we put a different twist on it. It's got pomegranate molasses in it. It's got sumac in it. Flavors that you wouldn't necessarily find in the Bahamas. So people eat it and like, okay, I know I'm eating a piece of chicken, but it's different. And
It's a
that's what we
different
wanted to
flavor
bring to the
combination.
table. Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. Ms. Cargo, thank you so much for that. That's amazing. I like how you brought in the factor of the story of being able to travel, go away to school, and be exposed to many different cultures, tastes, and flavors. That's one of the
Mhm.
things that I valued about having the opportunity to go away to college because I get to try the Vietnamese restaurant, I get to try the Peruvian restaurant, and
Mhm.
I realize that those flavors come from certain regions. So maybe I can't get certain flavors in the Bahamas that I may have tasted on my trip to Africa or maybe even my trip to Dubai, right? Because everybody
Exactly.
is talking about Dubai. So one of the things that you mentioned when we had speak previously is how Nom Nom Pita is going to focus on serving halal dishes. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about what halal is and what a halal diet actually is comprised of?
Okay, for sure. So halal, generally speaking, in English, it means permissible. And
Okay.
so permissible for Muslims is defined for us by our holy book, the Quran, is what God says you can eat,
Hmm.
which means we don't eat pork, we don't consume alcohol. Many Muslims will only eat meat that has been slaughtered by an adult Muslim man, and the animal has to be killed in a very specific way. It can't be stressed out. It has to be perfectly calm. It can't see the knife before it's slaughtered. A single stroke across the neck, and then it completely exsanguinates because we don't consume blood either. So it's very similar to the Jewish method of slaughter, which is kosher. And we actually do eat kosher foods where Muslims are permitted to eat from what we call people of the book, which is Jews and Christians, because essentially we worship the same God, just sort of different books. So we can eat meat from Jews and Christians.
Okay,
But
that's interesting.
yes, and also for us, our brother is a farmer, and so we really emphasize fresh food. We support a lot of local farmers. So Nom Nom is healthy, and it's halal, and it's local.
Mhm. Okay, so that's good news. So I know that. even though you may be looking at growth for a few other things that you already have on your mind, I know that one of the stops that if you or maybe your brother may come is definitely for fresh produce because grow will definitely have access to fresh produce from farmers who may have access, who may need a
Mhm.
bay just to sell their products. So that's some really, really good information. Now I have another question.
Sure.
I think you kind of explained which culture is Nom Nom Pita representative of, but tell me exactly what piqued your interest about Grow the Food Lab first. I know when you seen it, you said, what is this? And this is what do they offer? But what made it stand out and say, hey, this is something that Nom Nom Pita could use?
Okay, so the first time I heard about it, my first question was, do you have cold storage?
Okay.
Because as a restaurant, refrigeration is one of the most expensive elements that you can buy, but it's also one of the most critical. A walk-in freezer is $10,000, $15,000. Commercial refrigeration, just a stand-up fridge, is $3,000, $4,000. That's a lot for a small business to take on. But if Grow can offer us cold storage, it means that I can purchase larger quantities of things like beef. I can purchase half a side of beef instead of just a couple of steaks. It means that I can purchase more produce. So, for example, I can only purchase 8 Bahamian lettuces at a time because I don't have space to store more lettuces. But if I have access to better refrigeration, then I can buy in bulk and actually helps me to save on my costs.
Definitely, and I don't think a lot of persons may have realized that, and that brings me to my next question. So the next question is focused around the facilities that Grow has outside of storage that can also cater to restaurateurs and food entrepreneurs. So
Hmm.
I'm sure you've done your research for for local frozen facilities and cold storage facilities. But one of the questions I really want to get down to the nitty gritty with, and that's as a restaurant, what are a few of the other features that Grow the Food Lab has that can benefit new restaurateurs who may still be in the creative ideation phase or the startup phase? Because I can imagine when you and your sister were in the kitchen and experimenting and saying, we could do this and we could do that. I'm sure Grow could do this and we could do that. I'm sure Grow could have been the perfect playground for you guys. So tell me more about what do you think Grow has to offer?
Absolutely. I think that, starting the restaurant, we went through this learning process. And that's a very expensive process because you need a space to be in that meets your needs as a commercial or professional kitchen. What Grow would allow businesses to do is test their restaurant concept, refine their recipes, even operate a ghost kitchen without the immediate overhead of running and operating a restaurant. And that could really be the difference between make and break. And so I would encourage people who are thinking about getting into the restaurant business. It is not easy to try and get into a space like Grow, test your concept, test your recipes, refine your ideas before, thinking, what, I'm going to break out on my own and open my own space.
Yes, because one of the biggest challenges here that we've researched during our research process with Go the Food Lab is one of the highest costs, like you say, is storage, but even on top of storage, space. Being able just to host space, so overhead for space, being able
Mm-hmm.
to provide any sort of space for that food entrepreneur can take so much money off of their overhead and their startup costs, and it gives them more money to be creative with their ideation process.
Yes,
One of the other things that
absolutely.
you mentioned, being able to store large parcels of goods. A lot of chefs that we've spoken through our ideation and market research phase, some of those chefs are bringing in continuous loads of salmon because they don't have anywhere to purchase it locally at the best prices, but and they also
Mm-hmm.
need places to store it as well. Have you had some
Mm-hmm.
experiences like that so far?
Well, I wish we were buying containers of salmon personally, but we're not there yet. But what I have experienced, absolutely, is we're all talking about this global supply chain issue, the problems that we have in bringing things in. Um, and if we had, the space that Grow has available to us, we would be able to bring more items in. We have had trouble, incredible challenges in the last couple of months sourcing, really basic things, um, certain types of beef, certain types of mutton. It's they're just not there. Fish, for example. Right now we have had no fillet of snapper for 2 days because the weather is bad. But if we had space, I would be able to buy bigger quantities from local fishermen because we don't sell imported fish. We only sell fresh local Bahamian fish. I'd be able to buy bigger quantities from Bahamian fishermen, keep it in cold storage, and make sure I have that supply longer. One of the Another advantage that I see from Grow, particularly for us, is we actually manufacture a lot of small products. So we make our own cheese, for example. We make our own hummus. We do a number of sauces and dips. And if we want to expand that aspect of our business, I imagine that we would need certain types of equipment, certain types of certification that Grow can bring to the table that will allow us to access other markets like supermarkets, like the hotel market, for ultimately, our own line of dips and sauces and cheeses.
And even further than that, Ms. Cargill, you could
Hmm.
access Caribbean markets that may not have access to those products. Whereas maybe you could go in Florida and find halal and kosher products, but I know from experience it's very difficult to go in Super Value or a Bahamian store and find those same things. So it lets us know that the market exists within the Caribbean as well. So you can export, and being able to team up with Grow and their network of distributors, it also gives you access to the Caribbean market, maybe even the African markets, Chinese markets, because currently the trade agreements are going everywhere. So you don't know what we may be signing up for in the future and the possibilities and the opportunities.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
I have one final question, Ms. Cargo. One final question. Now, this may take us a little further away from Nom Nom Pita, but I know your experience takes us very, very far. So I have a question in terms of the timeliness of growth. Throughout our experience, especially yours in the food business and looking for places like Grow, but also your experience in the banking industry, tell me,
Mm.
how do you think, or do you think now is the perfect time for a company like Grow, and why do you think now is the perfect time?
Yeah, absolutely. So putting on my other hat right now, the development banking hat. One of our biggest challenges in the Bahamas really is our support infrastructure for agriculture and and secondary processing. So many persons are manufacturing. So, tons of people have hot sauces, tons of people are making jams and jellies, but there's this challenge in scalability, in getting to the next level, as it were. And so a facility like Grow, where people can A, test their concepts, where B, they can access equipment without, having to incur that financing cost of getting their own equipment, it allows them to enter the market faster. And the government is talking about 40/75, which is the hotels and the major purchasers are mandated now to purchase 40% of their entire inventory from Bahamian agricultural manufacturers and processors. And so, with a facility like Grow, you can really tie into that sort of diversification push and those quotas and those mandates to get Bahamians to a level where they can consistently produce at the quality that these big buyers are asking for. And so then there's no more, well, I can't get it locally. Yes, you can get it locally because, you may have your own distribution list. You can have, you can have producers collaborate with one another to fulfill maybe joint orders. There are so many possibilities for a facility like Grow, especially at a time like this when I think the government and the Bahamian public as in general are very sensitive about economic expansion, economic diversification, local production. We're becoming much more health conscious as a country. One of the big things that we've seen is poultry, for example. Much of the poultry that we buy in this country has been sitting on the shelves for months, maybe even years. The nutritive value is completely gone. Um, so having local Bahamian poultry producers would be amazing. For me, I go to the store and I see the hummus on the shelves, and I'm like, why am I spending $6 for hummus that
Seven,
came
$8 at Solomon's Fresh Market sometimes. Let me tell you,
exactly
I love hummus, so I know the cost.
that came all the way from Miami when I can buy hummus, from around the corner. I think Chick Charney Farms also does hummus. So it
Yes.
gives Bahamians the opportunities to see what's in the supermarket, what we're importing, and what you as a small producer can actually get into, what niche you can fit into.
Yes. And so you spoke about some of the really cool incentives that Grow would offer, especially when you spoke about the hotel deal and being able Grow being able to create that relationship with the farmers to help them enhance their capacity. So not only saying we're going to these fruits and vegetables, but being able to say, well, hey, Miss Cargill, Mr. Cargill, I accepted this from you this week, but next week is it possible that we can bump this up? And by doing that, creating a source of data, creating
Okay.
a data hub. Now, another
Mhm.
question I'm going to ask you, and I'm sure I know we operate in some of the same fields. So one of the questions I have is access to agricultural data and the value of agricultural data, and
Mhm.
Grow being a
Mhm.
facility being able to harvest agricultural data through their processes. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about your knowledge and the lack of agricultural data, the need for it, and the possibilities that you can see happening with Grow with agricultural data?
Mhm. The challenge with lack of access to data is almost universal across the country. And so as a business, how can you go forward and how can you really create a reasonable and rational business plan if you don't know what the market looks like, if you don't know what your input costs are, what you don't know the structure of how the industry is working. So it's really as if we're operating in the dark and we keep reinventing the wheel. We keep going back to the same things. And so without that data, you can never establish a foundation. You can't establish a baseline. There's nothing to point to. And so hopefully Grow can step into that gap and we can start to build up our body of knowledge around agriculture and agricultural production and what the market actually looks like for agricultural products.
And what the market actually needs. Because without
Exactly.
that data, we can't really say, well, we have this amount of potatoes being farmed. How much
Exactly.
flour can we mill from that potato that came from Andres? So being able to connect with farmers, create strategic databases that can basically map out our value chains and our agricultural potential just from one processing hub. So
Absolutely.
Grow is into so much, and I definitely would like to thank you, Ms. Cargill. I see we are just a bit past our 15 minutes, but whenever we get into good conversation, sometimes it's just hard to stop. So, Ms. Cargill, I'd like to thank you so very, very much for your time and also letting us know about Nom Nom Pita and exactly what they have to offer. I can't wait for my business partner, Regina, to come and take me down there. She's been promising, and I can't wait because I love multicultural food and definitely something different than the traditional that we normally have. So I want to thank you once
Okay.
again. I want to encourage everybody to go and follow Nom Nom Pita on Facebook. Also, I want to encourage everybody to head on down to Arawak X and invest in Grow the Food Lab. For only $16 a share, you get the opportunity as a Bahamian to own a part of not only a Bahamian company, but the Bahamian future, the future of food sustainability and food security in this country. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for following us and also staying tuned to Grow 15 Minutes with Grow the Food Lab. And next week, we'll be having another guest on telling us a little bit more about their sector, the value chain. Thank you once again, Ms. Cargo, and
Thank you.
enjoy.
Bye bye.